It's time for episode 297 of the 3 Point Podcast, and holy hashtag since 57. Same old Lions have become the brand new Lions. We're going to go deep into that, but boy, I tell you what, physically, health-wise, I feel so much better, and I really feel so much better after that scintillating victory over the Rams. How awesome was that, boys?
So it's not just the meds. It's the Lions getting a win that has your spirits lifted. And
100%. We're going to get deep into that, like I said, but we're presented by Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Check out memorialhealthcare.org for everything they offer, including discounts for 2024. Also want to thank our great local partners, including AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook and Associates Real Estate Services. Boy, she has some big news with a big remodel of the old Matthews building downtown Owasso. Also want to thank Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. You know, it's 2024, fellas, but every once in a while, periodically, definitely want to send a special shout out to our partners, man. I mean, they make this all possible. They're outstanding in what they do, and they've been with us and loyal for a long time. I mean, kudos to them. And anytime you see any of our partners, tell them you listen to the podcast. That goes a long way.
Yeah, we've said it a number of times. Like you just said, we always appreciate everything our partners do for us. It helps us keep doing this show, and we have had some loyal ones. We've had some come in and out, some new ones hop on, but we have some partners that really do some cool stuff, whether it's in the community or just their actual, I guess their business,
right?
With some really successful, some really cool businesses that we're partners with. So yeah, we love them.
Absolutely. Well, we usually catch up in this portion of the podcast, and I don't have a whole heck of a lot other than I started off 2024 with a brutal 2-week some sort of infection. After we recorded last week, I went to the doctor, finally sucked it up, ended up getting some antibiotics, and I'm back in business. But man, I was miserable for a couple weeks.
Was the doctor like, what the hell took you so long? Like, why were you not here 2 weeks ago?
No, he was kind to me, but it didn't take him long to figure it out either.
Sometimes it is, you get a little cold or something. You think you can just head over to CVS and pick up some over-the-counter stuff and just kind of knock it out, or go to the sauna and sweat it out. You kind of think you can just like take care of it on your own. And once it creeps into a week, 2 weeks, it's like, all right, I guess let's go see if this isn't something a little more serious. And then they give you the antibiotic and it's like, boom, knocks that thing right out. So
it really did. I was telling Matt off air, Jared, that, my wife got home from DC and she's looking at the records of my charge card. She goes, "Man, you spent over $100 on meds at Rite Aid." And I said,
"What?"
Oh, I tell you what, NyQuil and DayQuil is not cheap.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah,
anymore on this podcast.
Yeah,
I went natural remedy because I saw the prices of them. I swear I said that on this podcast like 2 or 3 months ago. It's unbelievable.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
you got to hope for you get one of those deals, like you walk into CVS and they have all those yellow tags, and you're like, "Oh, cool, they're on sale." Or then you think about you get the like generic store brand,
right?
And then sometimes you hear that they're like not as potent, I guess, or something. But
see, I never heard that. Have you heard that? Really? Is that?
I've heard before that like the generic brand.
Yeah.
This is probably some stupid internet rumor BS, but they said like literally at the thing I saw said they take whether it's cough medicine or whatever, and when it's expired, they take the label off and put the the generic brand label on that. So it's
that's
still
like conspiracy, man. And Ted guzzled that down. That's the funniest part about that whole thing is he got the store or the off-brand version.
I think that pisses my wife off at times too. I don't pay much attention to the expiration dates on stuff like medication. I go, oh, it's about a year past due. It's okay.
That's funny because my wife would be laughing at this because she'd laugh because I'm the complete opposite. Something hits that expiration date, it's out.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch that, man. Medication It's funny where you draw the line with certain things.
It is.
And I mean, I don't know. That's one thing. It's like next thing you know, you croak after you take a one little swig of a bad Dayquil. You're flirting with something there, man. I would not touch expired meds.
Yeah, I may have to take that under consideration. About the only thing I get too concerned with the expiration date is milk.
Yeah.
If it expires, I smell it, but I go, nah, I don't know.
Anything dairy, cheese, yogurt, anything like that.
Yeah. Or the meds, you're looking at the expiration, you're like, man, I'm about to go on a wild trip, man.
Right. Back to the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. I don't really have much. This is kind of more of just a realization. So during that big snowstorm we got this weekend, Matt, thank God you weren't in town. My God.
Yeah.
In the matter of like 2 hours, we had I swear I felt like 6 inches on the ground.
Yeah.
I pulled into work, had to pick something up. Was there for maybe 2-3 hours. By the time I left, there was not a drop on the ground. I left. I had to get pushed out of my parking spot in the parking lot. It's like, what the hell? But anyway, that next morning, Saturday morning, I'm just sitting there drinking my cup of coffee, snowed in, and I look out my window. And here in Detroit area, the houses are maybe a foot from each other. You look out your window and you can look into somebody else's window. It's kind of weird. But I look out my window and my next door neighbor has a whole family of teenagers, and there's this snot-nosed teenage kid out shoveling the driveway, and I could tell his dad gave him some sort of directive, get all of the ice off the driveway, not only shovel the first layer, but get all the ice off the driveway. So I kid you not, I'm just sitting there drinking my coffee, getting ready for Saturday NFL football. And he's out there shoveling for 2.5 hours. And I sat there and watched probably him shovel for an hour. And I think basically all that really means is I'm getting old. That sounds like a way Ted would have spent his Sunday 10 years ago. Probably, I don't know. Right. There's really not much else to add to that. I enjoyed watching this kid. There's at one point he's shoveling and he's just sitting there hacking at the ground. Nothing's happening. He's sitting there going crazy on the ground. Nothing's happening. All of a sudden a car flies by. He stops what he's doing and sits up on a shovel and acts like he was chilling as this car wheels by. More so it's indictment on myself, how much enjoyment I got out of watching this kid shovel this driveway. But I appreciate it, man. The driveway looked great afterward.
I mean, it sounds like it's like real life entertainment. It's basically like you were watching a TV show through your window.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes that kind of stuff can be entertaining because you might catch a slip and fall, or you might catch him doing something stupid and funny, or standing up on a shovel like that. The shoveling thing, I definitely don't miss it. I never really minded shoveling. It can be a pain on your back. I mean, if you're shoveling for a while, next thing you know, your back is blown out. So that can kind of suck. But funny story about that. Up in Bristol, I lived with a few dudes in a house when I worked up in Bristol at ESPN, and one of the guys was actually from Swartz Creek, so from Michigan, and he grew up in the snow. And one of the other guys was from the Atlanta area, had basically never seen snow, and then went to Texas to school. So basically had for the most part never seen snow. We got one of those crazy, basically lake effect, but it's called the nor'easter up in the New England. It just spins around and just dumps snow constantly. And we were it was 27 inches or something stupid. We're out there shoveling the sidewalk and driveway of our house. And the dude from Michigan and I are sitting there laughing because the other guy clearly had no idea what he was doing shoveling. I mean, I don't know even how to describe it. If you can picture, how do you not know how to shovel snow? But he was just everything he was doing, he'd throw it back into the driveway, or he would just not even get it. And we got to the point where we were like, dude, stop. We got it. Just go ahead and go inside, maybe cook some food or something. We got the driveway.
And that guy goes, well, that worked.
Right.
Right.
That was probably his whole plan, the whole time. But that's fine.
Did you guys see the Buffalo Bills, how they had to hire shovelers to shovel off the stadium?
Yeah.
I saw that and people were like, this is awesome, man. This is so awesome. It's $20 an hour to come basically shovel out these seats. The one video they posted, it looked like maybe they had 15 to 20 volunteers or workers, I guess you would say. It looked like they were in Mother Russia, working as slaves. It looked like hell, man. It was exactly what you're describing. I'm this little 15-second pan of this video. You see one kid doing the old grandpa technique where you're just like walking behind the shovel, like basically barely picking up any snow off the ground, like pushing it like it's a lawnmower. And the other kid's just like sitting there with this big old mound about 10 feet high, taking like big old cuts into this pile of snow and getting like 2 inches worth of snow on his shovel. It was like the funniest thing I've ever seen. What a shitty job, man. $20 an hour. I mean, if you're the Bills, like, how about some free tickets? Or how about like
the same thing?
Maybe you can actually clear some snow, because I saw that they basically did it where it just ended up being like, when you get there, find a seat. Any seat is available. There's no assigned seats. It was kind of awesome. But then you see people are literally just like shoveling off their seat, shoveling it onto somebody else's seat. So, just snow shoveling, man. It's not my favorite thing in the world. That's for sure. But I do enjoy watching other people do it.
I've kind of evolved. I didn't mind shoveling, smaller portions like this. I was lived in downtown Owasso and had to be responsible to shovel my sidewalks, and it was fine. It wasn't real hard work. 3 foot wide. It wasn't that bad. But I've evolved, man. I really enjoy. It's one of the things growing up in Michigan. I don't mind winter, and I really enjoy snow blowing the driveway. Man, when we get a nice snowstorm, I go, all right, I get to go out there and do some damage on the driveway. So I kind of like that.
I was going to ask if you have a snowblower, because I know you have a decent sized driveway. So I feel like that's, if you go out there and hand shovel your driveway enough times, you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to buy a snowblower. There
was no way I was shoveling this driveway. No way. For a while there, I hired people to come plow it out, but man, then they tore up my lawn more than once. And I said, the hell with that. I'm going to take care of it myself. I'll invest in a snowblower. It'll, give me 10 years of use at least, and I'm good to go.
There's nothing more that says you're a dad than first hiring people to plow your driveway, but then stopping that because they destroy your lawn.
Exactly.
The minute that they mess up your grass, all right, I'm going to Lowe's or Home Depot and I'm buying myself my own snowblower. And then you have fun with the snowblower. Then it's a good time.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. All right, fellas, I think we're caught up. We're just chomping at the bit, I think, to talk about our Detroit Lions. And we're going to do that right after this.
It's much more than a gym. It's the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Stocked with a wide array of state-of-the-art cardio and strength equipment, the Wellness Center also offers a variety of fitness classes. Run, jog, or get your steps in on the raised sky track with views of the entire Memorial campus. As part of your membership, enjoy the spa-like locker rooms with private showers. Also included is use of the steam rooms, saunas, and therapy pool. For more details, go online at memorialhealthcare.org or call 989-720-CARE.
All right, guys, I'll just tee it up for you to start it all off. I mean, the Lions came out on fire, scored 3 straight touchdowns. Then defense was making us nervous. But when it was all said and done, a 1-point win over the Rams, first playoff victory in 30 years. Just how sweet was that?
That was incredible. And I don't know about you guys, but it was kind of a weird week because, Michigan won the national championship on Monday. So obviously there was, if you want to call that a hangover for a few days anyway, a couple days, just watching all the videos and the stuff from at the national championship game, and then thinking about what players are coming or what players are not staying, all that kind of stuff. And then they have their parade in Ann Arbor. And, I feel like I was just all like Michigan won a national championship all last week. Not really getting too excited about the Lions playoff game until like the games on Saturday, the NFL games on Saturday, but then definitely Sunday morning is when I started really thinking, man, the Lions are hosting a playoff game today. And, I had a few friends go and they were texting and like saying that, the downtown is buzzing and everyone is just hyped and, tailgating, and the Ford Field was packed early. And then you start seeing Eminem is there and Megatron is there and Barry Sanders, and you see the hype video from Eminem. It's just everything started building up like, holy crap, this is actually happening. And then you add in the Matthew Stafford was coming back to town, that whole storyline. It was awesome. It was such a cool environment, obviously loud. I would have been curious to hear like in person how loud it was at Ford Field, because on TV you could tell it was loud down there. So just an incredible environment. And, the Lions got it done. Matthew Stafford was dealing even after busting up his hand and getting knocked out. It looked like on that one play, Stafford was dropping dimes all over the place, but the defense did just enough, and the offense did exactly what they needed to. It was really it was one of the few actually really good games of the weekend for the playoffs.
Yeah. It was the environment. Wow. I mean, my favorite visual of Ford Field, I'm not a big Ford Field guy, but the people have been packing it. And the few different times this year, we've had primetime, nighttime games. And the one of the very first visuals you see at Ford Field is when the lights are out and the suite lights are all on. And then that is one of the best visuals you'll see. Place was rocking. Yeah, like you said, every celeb in the house. I mean, Ted, I know your favorite, Jeff Daniels. You probably were like refreshing his Twitter feed all night, making sure you were staying up to date on what he was doing.
Brian Cranston was even there.
Wow. Shit, I didn't see Cranston. He's a goat, man.
He's a Rams fan, but still, he was there.
But no, it was awesome. Coming off of the Michigan thing, like it was almost like I'm almost dealing with like sensory overload with the Michigan national championship, then the Lions playoff win. It's like you don't know what your equilibrium is. Like it felt awesome to get that playoff win, like really, really, really awesome. But it's like you're spoiled. It's like we need a loss to reset us back to even. We're just winning in everything right now. We're winning in everything. I think maybe the Jim Harbaugh to the NFL news, maybe what will bring us back to center. But what an awesome game. I mean, it looked like for a second there it was going to be like 50-50. I even texted you guys, and Ted, you especially. I said, man, this defense really sucks. Yeah. Seemingly, as soon as I sent that text, they started playing great, or at least bend don't break the rest of the game. I mean, 3 red zone trips. That's the story. 3 field goals. That's how you win NFL playoff games. So what an awesome game. What an awesome environment. The M&M tees. Everything about it was perfect. It's everything I always expected it to be. And the cherry on top, man. And really what I think maybe propelled the Lions, gave them a little bit more extra motivation, was the Cowboys losing. And now we get to do it all again on Sunday at 3 p.m. So what an unbelievable life this really is. I said it last week, if they could just get past the Rams, it's Super Bowl or bust. I'm officially on the Super Bowl train. Kool-Aid is been shotgunned. It's gone. The cooler's empty. We're pushing forward for the Super Bowl. This team can do it. If you can win that game against Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Super Bowl champions, that pedigree, you can win the Super Bowl. I'm all in.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, like they always say, and let's face it, it's one game at a time. We can't overlook the Buccaneers, man. They looked impressive last night. They gave the Lions all they could handle when they first played them down there. Yeah. Mayfield seems to be on a bit of a roll, and that defense, I mean, Matt, you've talked about Goff. We know that he is not the best quarterback in the world when he gets pressure, and Tampa Bay was putting all kinds of pressure on Hurts yesterday. And the Lions, offensive line's going to have to step up again. I'm pretty confident, but you got to take it one game at a time. And yeah, you get by the Bucs, and assuming that you go out to San Francisco, okay. But the way the Packers are playing, who knows? Might be a third home game for the Lions. I mean, it's entirely possible. And Jared, I direct this mostly at you because what you just said. Think about your lifetime with the Detroit Lions and the disappointment with Michigan football. And I tweeted it. Our high school team, the Corunna Cavaliers, went all the way to Ford Field. The Michigan Wolverines, 15-0 national champions, and the Detroit Lions, absolutely Super Bowl contender. This by far is, in my lifetime, guys, the greatest football season I have ever been alive for. No doubt.
I mean, I don't know if there's nothing that could top it for you had all three levels like you just laid out. And I don't know if it can ever be topped again. The only way it could ever be topped is if Corunna actually wins a state title, and then if the Lions go on and win a Super Bowl. But that's setting the bar pretty high. It's been a dream. I mean, like you said, Jared, we almost need, we don't want, but you almost need a loss to all right, let's bring it back to earth. Because right now, I feel like you said, it's Super Bowl or bust. Right now, I'm entirely confident in this team. Yeah, they could win the Super Bowl. I think they could beat anyone in the NFC. You have no idea what the Niners are going to be like after that week off. Sometimes that bye week in the playoffs, it just shakes everything up. Yeah. And the Packers have been rolling with Jordan Love, and maybe that helps them. Jordan Love, the momentum is going for the Packers. Maybe they go out to San Fran and stomp them. And, maybe that defense forces Brock Purdy into a couple interceptions or something, and yeah, we get a third game at Ford Field possibly. It'd be insane. But no, I'm entirely confident in this team and in the defense. Like you said, Jared, bend don't break. They're not going to shut any team down. They're not going to like just be a lights out, pitch a shutout type of thing. But usually, you know, they do good enough to where if the offense doesn't blow it, you know, it's always one of those, like if the offense does what they do, what Jared Goff has been playing really well, this team has a really good shot because the defense is like good enough. Hutchinson and the defensive line actually has been playing pretty well. The linebackers are doing what they need to. The secondary is what it is. I mean, they're at this point, they just are what they are. You got to hope that they like they get an interception or two. Like that's just what you got to hope for. And then, like you said, Jared, when you get to the red zone, if you can tighten up and hold teams to a field goal, that's a win. Because I mean that Matthew Stafford, because they lost, you know, it's not being talked about much. He made some incredible throws on Sunday. I mean, he was throwing sidearm. He was doing everything we've seen him do with Detroit, you know, however long. Sidearms, no looks. I mean, he was just zipping the ball in there. But, you know, the Lions defense tightened up when they needed to. And credit to Goff. I mean, yeah, I am not the biggest Jared Goff fan, but I'm not like, I've said this so many times on here, I'm not on the side of like a hater. Get him out of here. I don't want him on the Lions. It's not that at all. You know, I don't think he's like a top 10 quarterback. He's starting to inch into there though, maybe with how he's playing, because you see with no pressure against the Rams, he was like 22 of 22 for 250 yards and his touchdowns. But then, you know, we see when he does get pressured, you know, he's not the most mobile. He can move in the pocket a little bit, but he gets a little flustered. So almost to an extent, kind of like what you said, Ted, about the Buccaneers against the Eagles, they were really pressuring Hurts. I don't know why teams don't all out blitz Jared Goff every single time. I know when the run game is working, you know, you can't just do that every single time. But when he sits back there in a clean pocket, no pressure, he can pick teams apart. He's an accurate passer. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He doesn't have an arm like Stafford, but he can zip it when he needs to. I mean, he made a couple throws to Josh Reynolds and some other ones that were like, dang, okay. So the run game is working. I mean, Laporta was actually out there playing, you know, hopefully maybe some rest days this week, and he can basically be back to close to 100% on Sunday. This is a Super Bowl team. I mean, if they don't have any major injuries, you know, and, you know, you just never know about that, but this is a Super Bowl team. And it's crazy to say that because we've never seen it. Right.
Yeah. You know, and I got to slip this in there. And we all have our different opinions about Jared Goff. There's no question about it. Let's throw the whole contract thing out of the box right now. Yeah. That's something they'll deal with down the road. But right now, from what I see, and you said it perfectly, without pressure, he's 22 of 22. I mean, not every quarterback in the NFL will have that kind of accuracy. The dude can throw the pass, right? Yep. Maybe not the long ball, but that's also part of their offensive scheme. But my God, this team is in love with Jared Goff, and that's good enough for me. Dan Campbell loves him. The team, you can see it in these videos. He is the leader of this year's Detroit Lion team, and we need to soak that up and give him some good karma because the dude's done everything he's been asked to do. He's run out of LA. Sean McVay gives him he just kicks him out of town, basically. You know, it was an absolute perfect trade. Perfect trade. Look what the Lions got for Stafford. We all loved Stafford when he was in Detroit. I still like him too. I mean, that was a hell of a performance yesterday. The guy's a stud. If he was on this Detroit Lions team, they'd be as good as they are or better with Matthew Stafford, just because, you know, they have the components around him, right? Yeah. But
I just don't know. Here's the thing with Stafford, and I'll let you finish.
No, go ahead. That's all.
Like, I think I thought about that same exact thing. Like, if Stafford never requested a trade, and let's just say that we got all these same pieces.
Yeah,
I almost think like Goff helped because Goff was willing or doesn't have the ability to be like Stafford and win a game basically entirely on his right arm. Right. Like, I don't know if this team could have built their identity the same way they have with Jared Goff being able to pound the rock and do all that, where because you're just your bottom with Stafford, Like he just wouldn't let you fall that low, basically. Like, and Stafford's going to throw the ball 40 times if he needs to win a game. So I almost think it's almost the opposite, where it's like, I'm not sure the culture would be the same. I'm not sure the team would be just as good, or if not better, with Stafford. You would think on paper it would be, but there's something about the cohesion and the culture. I mean, look at the Eagles. It's like they have talent, they have veteran leadership, everything, but the culture is just rotten.
What a shit
and
show.
We're seeing it down the stretch. The Lions are the exact opposite of that, where I think they're maximizing their talent. They love playing with each other, and I think that's maybe the number one thing you could say about Jared Goff, like you said, Ted, is that they love playing for that guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, as you're saying, Goff compared to Stafford.
Well, yeah, I just want to, this matchup, it's really all I want to say is how ideal was it? I mean, Matthew Stafford coming back home. I mean, and you're reading some of this stuff on social media about the booing. Well, what else are you going to do? If booing is out there, he's the opponent, he's the enemy for this Sunday afternoon. It wasn't personal. I mean, I read stuff about his wife and stuff. You just got to take that with a grain of salt, right? I mean, again, I think Miggy Incognito posted something on our Twitter site about not getting the booing in general. I tend to understand that, but that's just the nature of the beast. That just goes along with the territory.
Yeah, and Matthew Stafford, he said it last week or coming into the game that he understands he is now the enemy. He had that was his first game back in Detroit since the trade. They played the Rams, but it was out in LA. So that was his first time back in Detroit. He's done nothing but say good things about Detroit ever since he left. I mean, they had charities and they had fundraisers when they lived in Detroit, and they always gave back to the community. He obviously did what he could, when the Lions were in the dumps, hiring people like Matt Patricia and having just terrible draft picks and stuff his whole tenure there. So he did what he needed to do as a Lion, I think. You can criticize he was 0-3 in the playoffs, and there were obviously times that he was a little maybe reckless with the ball. Some of those interceptions sometimes would be like, man, what are you doing? People say he was a stat padder. He would rack up his stats when they were down 20, 30 points when they just started throwing the ball. I understand all the criticism about Stafford, but to me, he did everything he could in his tenure in Detroit. And like you kind of just laid out, they never had a coach like Dan Campbell when he was there. They never had an offensive line. They had skill players, they had Megatron and they had Reggie Bush for a little bit. They had some good skill players, but they never had a complete full team like this Lions team when Stafford was there. And maybe Jared, good point. Maybe it's a little bit of a knock on Stafford because he is so good. Maybe they think like, we don't have to build a team like this. We've got Matthew Stafford. He's going to win games for us. Let's just get him some receivers and, go with that. Let's get a running back like Reggie Bush, and that'll be good enough. Instead of like, let's get a guy like David Montgomery. Let's really build this offensive line, So maybe there is something to that. But,
yeah, and like I said, that because of the trade, the Lions were able to stock some definite needs. And let's look ahead in the crystal ball. Let's say, go Lions, go. We don't know what the next couple of weeks are going to have in store for us. But right now, if you're their general manager, what do? Where do you try to strengthen yourself? Secondary, I think, stands 100%. Out number one, right?
Yeah, secondary, and to me, maybe
even,
defensive line, because Hutchinson clearly it'd be nice for him to have a counterpart. If the Raiders really, Max Crosby has said, the Raiders don't give the job to Antonio Pierce, he wants out.
Yep.
If that actually happens, go get Max Crosby. that would be nice. I think linebacker too. We all love Alex Anzalone, and he's a great locker room guy, great culture guy, and I think he was even. I don't know. I was going to say I think he got voted into the Pro Bowl. I don't think that's true, but I don't think that's true.
He had a Pro Bowl-esque season. He was probably their best defender consistently all year.
Yeah, he had a great year.
But, he's, age is maybe starting to creep up with him, and he is limited a little bit. So maybe even linebacker. But I think first it would be secondary and defensive line would really, I think most people would say.
Just if you can keep that offense together, just every pick on defense, right?
Right. And that's where, yes, you throw the contract thing out. We'll worry about that after the Lions win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But that's where the Goff contract thing, to me, comes in. Jared, I think you were talking about it a couple of weeks ago because, you're going to have to pay Hutchinson at some point. You're going to have to pay Brian Branch in a few years. You're going to have to pay St. Brown, Laporta. You know, got all Penei Sewell at some point is going to need
it's a good problem.
basically a max contract. You know, Jahmyr Gibbs in a few years if you want to keep him. So you have all these dudes, like you just said, Ted, if you want to keep this offense together, that you're going to have to pay. And, you know, if you have $300 million wrapped up in Jared Goff, then, you know, that might make it tough. So that would be the discussion. I don't know that, but like you said, that's down the line. So the booing thing, I definitely want to get your guys' thoughts. Ted, you kind of said it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm getting like absolutely blown up on Twitter. And still, I bet if I hopped on right now, I would probably have like 30 notifications. It's been kind of crazy. So after anyone who doesn't know, you've probably seen it at this point. After the game and Stafford's post-game presser, he was asked, someone basically teed up and asked him, how do you feel for the fans in the city of Detroit that they finally got this playoff win? And Stafford just very simply said, I'm happy for the players in that locker room, and like moved on. Obviously an opportunity for him to like say, happy for the city, the fans deserve it, you know, all those generic lines that everyone has been saying. But like I said before, he has already said all that stuff. He has said nothing but glowing things about the fans, about the city and everything. So it's almost there's a side that's like, what else do you want him to say? And then there's also the side that it's like, this is minutes after he just lost to the Lions in the playoffs. And he's already contemplated, you know, there's been reports of him contemplating retirement at times because of some of the injuries. And, you know, he might be thinking about what's going on with my career, what's going on here with the Rams. And you're asking him minutes after the Lions just beat him to like gush about the fans. It's like, well, I don't think that's really necessarily the place to do that. I understand. Yeah, he could have just quickly said something nice like, yeah, I'm happy for the fans. They deserve it. And then move on. I get that. But the big thing to me is the booing. I don't think, you know, like you said, Miggy Incognito said like he never understands the booing. I'm kind of with that too. The booing is kind of goofy. Sometimes, you know, if you're in that environment, mob mentality, if everyone starts booing, you're going to start booing too. So, you know, you're all fired up, you know, you want to boo the opposing team. I get that. I'm not on the side of people are like, you know, so on Twitter, people are like, would you want them to roll the red carpet out for Stafford and everyone to praise him and everyone wears? No one is saying all that. We said it on the podcast. You just said it, Ted. We're still like Stafford fans, but no, he plays for the Rams now. It's full Lions. I want nothing to do with cheering for him when he's getting these completions, touchdowns. Way. No, he is on the Rams. I want nothing to do with cheering for him to beat the Lions. No. But pregame, like an hour before, when he trots on the field to start warming up and you hear 100,000 Ford Field fans booing him, that's where I was like, that could have been the time to maybe just give him a little applause. And, you know, I'm not saying a standing ovation. I'm not saying, you know, but like the booing there could have been a little like, geez, really? Oh, okay. I mean, whatever. I'm not that fired up about it. I just thought it was maybe a little head scratching right then. But then anytime throughout the game, boo the heck out of him because he's the opposing quarterback. But to get so mad at him, people are saying like classless. Stafford is such a bum now because he didn't answer that question in the post-game presser and praise Detroit and all this stuff. I'm just like, you just booed him. You did a jersey ban. You said no one wear his jersey to Ford Field, which I get. I wouldn't want to see Stafford jerseys. You know, I get that. But like you do that. And then you expect him after the Lions beat him to be like, I love Detroit. Detroit fans are the best. They deserve all this. It's just like which way do you want it? That was my one thing. Like, I don't understand. Like, I get he's the opposing quarterback and I understand all that. I'm not saying roll the red carpet out for him. No. But if you're going to boo the heck out of him and be happy when he, you know, got knocked out on the field and say, get out of here and all that kind of stuff, what do you expect him to say about the fans in the post-game presser minutes after he just lost and his season is over? That was my only thing. And of course, you know, people are blowing me up saying like, if you love Stafford, why don't you go be a Rams fan and all that stuff? And it's like, that's not even like what I'm saying. But so, yeah. So what are you guys staying on the booing? Like,
I'll be at first, I went back and forth with it. Here's where I view it maybe a little differently is leading up to the game. I don't know. Apparently his wife, Kelly Stafford, has a podcast. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's talking about on our podcast how she can't believe Detroit didn't comp them a suite, and like
Oh.
their expectation of what this game was going to be was like if it was like a preseason game, and it's like basically it was like meaningless. Like, well, let's just celebrate Stafford.
Right.
Like it's a
No way.
playoff game, first time in 30 years. Like Stafford is an afterthought. Like,
Yeah.
and as for the actual like booing when he ran on the field, I don't hate the gamesmanship. Like I don't when I hear boos, like especially in that setting, like people I think take it like too personally. It's like
Right.
that's part of the sports like world. I don't. It's just a funny thing to do. I think like I wouldn't have started the booing, but let's say I'm at that game. I've had whatever 6 beers. I probably would have joined in on the booing and laughed about it. Like what? Like I didn't like. I thought that was maybe a little overblown, and I don't know what they were expecting. Like I almost think this family, the Stafford family, thought they were going to be like treated like kings and like in queens at this game. Like they
Right.
rolled up wearing like the whole family with his like I think he's like 5 daughters or something like that, all
4.
within like ages 0 to 5.
Yeah.
They're all wearing like matching jackets that say like Detroit born, LA raised. Like they thought this was going to be like an awesome like we love you environment. And she's saying stuff after the game like, and this is probably what happened before Stafford went to the post-game podium. She probably said something like, yeah, we got booed all night and they were horrible to the kids. You guys
Right.
actually think fans in Ford Field were like shitting on their kids?
Right.
I think that's an
Doubtful.
exaggeration. That's maybe one dumbass fan who probably
Yep.
was the same guy calling himself a Detroit Ram 3 years ago.
Right.
Like, and she just does this whole stereotypical paint with a broad brush over the entire Lions fan base over one drunk jackass who's wearing an engine as a hat. Like, they overblown it. And I'm just like, I love Stafford. I've always loved Stafford. I can't change how my heart feels. How this whole thing went down, it changed my opinion of him. It really did. Like, it just seems so kind of soft. Like that question at the end, I get like it's not something you want to hear right then, especially when you just got booed and maybe whether it's true or not, your wife just told you that her kids got booed. Like, just say, yeah, I'm happy for the fans
Right.
in the city. Like basically exactly what he said, except he pointed and only said it about the players.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
he could have just said that same exact one line answer, said, yeah, I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Like he
No,
was
that's fair.
very
That's
pissed and
fair.
hurt. And maybe it's fair that he's hurt. I don't know. Like it was such a perfect storm that of course happened to Detroit. Like any other time, if it wasn't a playoff game, we would have celebrated Stafford, had a 5-minute, farewell video, all that stuff. But it's a playoff game, man. And and it's funny because I think the boos actually like made him play better. Like he played great. It almost seemed like he was dialed in, and he probably was concussed on that one play. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe we can talk about that. But he's like, F that. I'm playing. Like we're winning. I want to win this game so goddamn bad. So I think he played great.
Yeah,
It's just
he
it was just a weird. I think it's more so coming from his wife than necessarily Matt. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'm reading too much between the lines.
No, I think you're right on that part. And as far as the boos go, it's just part of the game.
Yep.
They didn't necessarily have to, but big deal. That's the way I
Yeah.
look at it. I liked it better when I like better when fans are cheering positive. When they did the whole Jared Goff, that's how you're supposed to behave at a game, in my
Right.
opinion. I mean, the
Yep.
positive vibes, and that's how I would prefer to be. But hey, like we said, wrapping up the Matt Stafford conversation, we're always going to love Matt Stafford. Man, he was a hell of a guy, hell of a quarterback on a bad Detroit franchise at that time. And God bless him. God bless him for being a part of the trade. And then we all forget a little bit. He wanted out of Detroit. It wasn't Detroit wasn't going out of their way to trade him. He wanted to go somewhere else, and it paid off. He got his Super Bowl. It should be a win-win for everybody.
It should be.
Can you imagine? Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, I was going to say that's part of the story too. Is he did ask to be traded, so there is that side.
I had the thought during the game, like imagine an alternate universe. Let's say the Rams lose that Super Bowl to the Bengals, and this exact game like plays out. Oh my God, Stafford would have to go hide under a rock for a year. That would have been a shit show.
Right.
I don't know, Matt. Like Matt, did you? I don't know. I go back and forth on. Like I was gonna honestly, my first opinion on this whole thing was gonna be I don't have an opinion for once. I see both sides of the Stafford saga, but I don't know. Just something about his snarkiness, kind of post game. Just say you're happy for the fans, man, and move on. I don't know, and maybe it's unfair of me to put so much credit in the Lions fans to act like they weren't being shitheads to the Staffords all game, but like I almost like this is not right. I shouldn't say this, but you're almost tempting fate sending that family out into Ford Field in that environment. It's like you almost got like, dude, whatever the suite costs, Stafford, you got to pay for it, man, and you got to get your family out of the mass of humanity at Ford Field in the lower bowl. Like I kind of almost like, what are you asking for? Drunk, middle-aged loser fans are there. Like, yeah, you're gonna get booed. You're gonna get a few, quips as the game is falling and the Rams are losing. Like I kind of think it just comes with the territory when you go into enemy territory.
Yeah.
Like it'd be like going out into Buffalo next week and then like being pissed about getting booed after it. It's like, no, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
no, I definitely understand that, because it did come off like they expected the red carpet to be rolled out and the video tribute to happen there. And it is different. Regular season game, yeah, do it.
Mhm.
But in the playoffs, first time at Ford Field ever, first time in Detroit in 30 years, no, that's not going to happen.
For the
They
blood.
play the Rams in the regular season in Detroit next year. So I bet that stuff will probably happen then, but it almost now feels like it's going to be a little like,
yeah.
do you even want to now? Because now it's
Right.
the second time that he's back in Detroit. I mean, they probably still will do it and try to just like move on. Let's do this. Say thank you, Stafford, and then everyone move on. But
I think it's just the start of this story. Like you said, it's gonna bleed into the whatever that there'll be more that'll come out about what happened to the Stafford family on her podcast probably this week. This is a story that's gonna have a long shelf life.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Hey, I'll change the topic just a little bit. I was gonna say, in hindsight, I really wish I would have gone to the game. I mean, that would have been unbelievable. I mean, from everything I'm hearing, you see Dan Campbell talking about it. He says he's never seen anything like it in his life. I mean, we picked up on how loud it was on TV. I have a guy I work with who was at the game. He bought season tickets this year. He went to Kansas City because he knew this was going to be a Lions year. Him and I had a lot of conversations, and I'm texting him at the stadium and saying, "Hey, man, what's it like?" He says, "I can't hear myself think." I mean, it was so loud.
So why don't you? Okay, well, you got your chance.
I was going to say, so now you have
I
your
know.
What was the one concert that you didn't go to, but you wish you would have? Was it Miley? Or there was a concert that?
No, who was it? It was
no. Well, my dad was like, I remember he talked about going to a Prince concert, and then I think Prince died like a month later. Like it was kind of morbid how it happened. Maybe that's
there
was one I wanted to go to too, and I can't.
Is it Ed Sheeran? Wasn't it Ed Sheeran?
Oh, Ed Sheeran.
In Detroit?
Ed Sheeran, absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So
we'll see. We'll see what the ticket prices are. I mean, I paid $199 standing room only on Thanksgiving. I mean, what are you thinking for round 2 of the playoffs?
Just imagine if you would have not, what a dud that game was, man. If you could have just saved that, $400.
Oh, you're right.
Put it forward to this playoff game, man, you'd be feeling a lot better about going.
I'm going to blame that on my sister Jenny, because she's the one that instigated that whole Thanksgiving thing this year. So I don't know. I'll find out. I'll let you guys know. But I would do standing room if it was within reason.
You'd think they'd be pretty pricey. What do we think, though? I think I saw this morning. Right now, the Packers are a 10-point underdog, and I think the Lions I saw are 6-point favorite.
Really?
Do we think it's just simply going to play out like that? Lions, 49ers, and the NFC Championship, or what's your guys' early gut reaction right now?
I'm not nervous about this game. I know I probably should be. It's a playoff game. The Buccaneers they have a good defense, and it kind of is like the anti of what the Lions want to do with all the blitzes they send. But I'm confident. I would be shocked if they lost to the Buccaneers. I really would be. I think that the Buccaneers are not the greatest matchup with the stud wide receivers they have, and kind of the gunslinging of Baker Mayfield could lead for a couple big plays against the Lions defense. But I mean, how are you not confident? I felt like the Rams were the best team outside of the 49ers, like on this bracket that the Lions had to beat. And we talked about it, man. I mean, that was the perfect, exercise your demons win. Yes. Now it's just free flowing. It's like Michigan in the national championship, man. Just go play with your hair on fire and win this game. I feel uber confident, which is, I never feel that way about a Michigan game or Lions game. So maybe that's not a good sign, but I'm uber confident. I'm not going to break a sweat until I need to during that game.
Yeah, I'm confident on Lions. I'm actually, what'd you say, 10-point 49ers?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What the Packers got going right now, I don't know. I mean, I if I was a betting man, I'd probably take the 10 and take the Packers, but I think they can actually go into San Francisco. You talked about it a little earlier with the week off. I mean, Purdy, he's going to come down to reality someday. Maybe it'll be with the playoffs, right? I mean, Packers right now, and I think I texted you guys. I mean, it's the Lions. They ran through the North this year, but watch out in the future because the Packers are going to be right there. I mean, Love is a lot better than I thought he was. I mean, I got to give him credit. I mean, he looked good on Thanksgiving, the game I went to, and I mean, he just looked fantastic. I mean, they got a great system there with the coach, and I think they could go out to San Francisco and win that game and set up that third playoff game for Detroit. That's what I'm focused on right now.
It'd be crazy. Similar to Michigan, kind of what you're saying. Michigan had to win it this year with all the conference realignment and all the guys that we've seen leave Michigan, possibly Harbaugh. Michigan had to get it done this year. They did. It almost feels that way with the Lions, just because with the NFL, you never know. Free agents leave, just whatever happens. If the Packers all of a sudden turn into the Packers that we've always seen, get it done this year, Detroit.
Well, what's going to be sweet, the Lions have the 3:00 Sunday game. The 49ers and Packers are the Saturday night prime time game at 8:15. So they're going to have all the cards laid out in front of them before that game on Sunday. I mean, and again, NFL, I still like college football probably a little bit better than the NFL, but with the day and age of what they got going on now, looking at the future with NIL and everything else, coaches moving on, NFL still is king. I mean, when you get to the playoffs here and you look at these matchups we have coming up next week, with Texans and Stroud of Ohio State couldn't beat Michigan, but now he's going to be an all-pro quarterback. They play at the Ravens.
I love watching the Stroud. I love watching Stroud. He's like my favorite player, man.
He's good. Because
of what you said, it makes you feel confident about the future of Michigan. Right. The fact that they could not beat Michigan with Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr., Olave, whoever else. They didn't have Olave, but Garrett Wilson, all of those guys. Like, how the hell are we ever going to lose to those guys? We couldn't lose to them when they had those freaking pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, it's going to be fun. That's for sure. All right. Well, let's take another short pause and we'll have the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency right after this.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, guys, I want to start this Prep Spotlight again, brought to you by Jacobs Insurance. I want to say congratulations to our buddy Jerome Murphy. He's officially retired as a sports writer for the Owasso Argus Press. Had quite a career over 30 years, wrote a heck of a lot of good stories, mostly on high school athletes from, all the area teams. Didn't matter if they were big or small. He had a great writing style and a well-earned retirement for Murph, man. He's a good guy.
Turf the Murph will always be legendary.
Did he get a nice little front page send out? I didn't see it.
He did. Yes, he did.
What was the title of it?
Oh, you have to ask me
that.
Clever? It was fairly clever. It showed him standing in front of the printing press at the Argus Press. It was front page picture. I don't remember what the headline was, but it was very well done. And it's the end of an era. When I look back and, I started out, there was a guy named Lucky Gad. He was a cigar smoking drinker that would go to the high school games. You could smell the booze on him. No offense to any of the Gad family listening, but he was a good writer. And then it went from him to Gary Webster, good friend of mine. Tony Hornis was there for a long time. And then it went to Murphy. There were other sports editors, Ryan Wise, one of our friends, but Murphy is the last of a breed. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Argus continues forward,
right.
With the day and age of newspapers nowadays. I mean, they've never missed printing. They're there every day. But, man, it is kind of a dying industry, isn't it?
It is. And, I know you still get the paper, and some of my friends that still live in the area, they still get the Argus. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes, especially, during high school football season or during other, Michigan Lions, whatever, big events like that, they still will text and say they look forward to getting the Argus and seeing the write-ups and stuff. So there is still it seems like there is still value for a newspaper. It does seem like it's still a little more like local, it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily go to the paper for your national news. It's maybe more for your local community stuff and maybe broader like Michigan coverage. But I think there is still value, but right. It's not what it used to be. So it's tough to, print a paper every day. It's still crazy to think about that. But
the Argus press, man, it's the last of a dying breed. It really is as a whole. Like the whole printing press thing, and just this local news. Yeah, hopefully somebody steps in and can fill the shoes of Jerome the Murphy, a guy that you see once, you never forget him. You never, just which is it's a good thing. I wish I had that effect on people. It's like you'll never forget him. You'll never ever forget him. When I'm on my deathbed, 90 years old, I'll be flipping through those articles that he wrote way back when. And I'll remember that guy, the Murph legend.
Absolutely. Well, congrats to Murph. By the way, speaking of the Argus Press, I usually get most of my Prep Spotlight information from the Argus Press, whether it's the newspaper or their online edition.
What you're saying is we need to send a stipend to Murphy because he's basically funded this program for the last year.
Well, we just gave him kudos on the air, but this one actually was from last week, the game on Z92.5. We'll start out in boys basketball. St. John's down Hazlitt 49-42. Sophomore Bryce Prattle had 20 in that one. It was actually, to tell you the truth, it's been a little slim pickings finding things in the paper. Not everything is getting reported to the Argus. So I had to do a little digging for some of this stuff here. Goodrich down Corunna 56-47. The Cavs fall to 3-7 despite Braylon Socha's 15. Kind of a disappointing season so far for the Cavaliers on the hardwood. They were coming into some pretty high expectations. Some players didn't go out, and they're going to have to kind of figure it out the rest of the way. Owasso, I didn't even see this in the paper. I saw it in the online edition. Owasso picked up their first W of the year, 35-32 Trojans.
Barn burner.
Yeah, big win. Nate Parsons, Carter McCulka split 16 points, and a big win for Dave Owens because, we know Owasso's basketball has struggled the last few years, and that's huge to get a W for those kids.
Who did they play?
They played Brandon, 35-32. Yep, a conference win. Also rounding out the boys basketball, Ovid Elsie beat Mount Morris 62-35. In girls basketball, Langsburg got by Saranac. Their fifth straight win, 54-15. Kaylee Clark had 11. And in swimming, Owasso boys stayed unbeaten, downing Chesaning and Oscoda. Blake Binger was 4 of 4 in his swimming events. That leads us up to this week's Castle Game of the Week. It'll be this coming Friday as the St. John's Red Wings travel to Fowlerville to take on the Gladiators 2 weeks in a row. St. John's on the radio. And right now, I got to give a blatant promo, fellas. We haven't talked about it on the podcast, but the first annual Black and Gold Night is coming up February 3rd at the Knights of Columbus. It's going to be a fundraising affair for Corunna Athletics. Back in the day, they used to have a big party. It was called the 300 Club. It was with the Owasso Trojans Athletic Club, and then they split all the proceeds. But Corunna's starting their own this year. Dinner, drinks, and a silent auction. It's going to be February 3rd. Put it on your calendar. Going to be a lot of neat things auctioned off, and I think it's very cool by the Athletic Club to put that together.
Definitely sounds like it's going to be a cool event, but what's the real reason that you're bringing that up?
I have no idea.
Right.
No, they invented an award. They're going to give me, since I'm old, they're going to give me the first annual Golden Alumni Award. And it's going to be interesting to see. I just hope that anybody that participates, Jared, remembers that my wife is going to be there and so is my daughter. So be kind if there's any shenanigans.
There's not gonna be shenanigans. Good Lord, man. How little do you think of me?
Well, I remember the family roast we had on a Christmas. That's all I'm going back to.
Listen, I was tasked with putting together a roast. It's a roast. That's the point of it.
No, I got a thick enough skin. I'm just saying, remember, my wife and my daughter's going to be there. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes. No, there will be no negativity. You had a great career. It's cool that you're getting this honor. Is there any part this is maybe tying a bow on the Prep Spotlight, but as you see kind of Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, all hanging it was weird to me just watching those guys my whole life. That's football is those guys. That's all I've ever known. but you lived it, man. I mean, you were there. You were covering probably Nick Saban during his days at Michigan State.
Oh yeah.
Was it weird kind of seeing those three guys kind of tie a bow on a career? Just as somebody who is retired himself.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, the timing of it, like Saban said. I mean, I go right back to how he said it. You could kind of tell this year things were a little bit different, but when you'll see it someday down the road, and that's where I'm at right now. You get to a point where you re-look at life in general, and you do wear down a little bit. You've
Right.
had a full life of grinding, right? I'm 68, and it's just grind. It's time to slow down and enjoy things, and
Right.
that's where they're at. I think it's kind of interesting that, like you said, I did cover these guys. I followed them all very closely, and then I kind of stepped away around about the same time. So you just
Yeah.
have to put me with the Belichick and Saban legacy, I guess.
Yeah, I would say right there with them. And that's
Exactly.
why Corunna's giving you that award.
Yep.
So much deserved, really cool, and yeah, it is crazy to see multiple people step away, legends like that. I know Belichick
Yeah.
still might keep coaching, but
Right.
it was crazy. All like within a couple days, Carroll, Belichick, Saban, all hanging it up. But
Yeah, in fact, when Carroll got he got fired. Let's face it, whether they
Right.
want to call it mutual or not. I really thought he might end up at Washington, but they pulled the string, and that's what's been funny in college football. Maybe we'll talk more about it in potpourri, but the quick turnaround and quick hirings that have happened. I guess that's part of the
Musical
business.
chairs.
All right, well, let's get into some of that stuff in the sports potpourri right after this. All right, I'll start it off, guys. Just in general, the Michigan Wolverines, national champions, it was awesome. And now the reality is setting in. Okay, they had the big parade and pep rally. I mean, I don't know if you saw it. It was on the Big Ten Network, the pep rally at Chrysler. It was awesome. It was just what you would expect to see. They did it really top notch, high class. I mean, hearing from the captains, JJ and the others, and Corum, they saved Corum for last. Harbaugh, we've said it many times. He's a hell of a coach, just a hell of a coach. But man, he is a bit of a weirdo. And coming out with his whole Shakespeare speech that he did, I thought, man, you're losing people here, Jimmy. But just a great capper to
Whatever
a
he
great
says,
season.
people go nuts about, man.
I know.
Unless it's that he's taking an NFL job.
Right.
Before we get into kind of some of the negativity and the rumors surrounding it, I just wanted to tie a bow on last week and kind of some of the things you mentioned. The parade, that was awesome.
Yep.
Seeing all those guys back, one last ride,
Especially with
just
the
little
weather.
things that I kind of like, maybe like I just appreciated. We talked about how I was like, it didn't feel kind of as awesome as I thought it would, the championship. I take it back. What I realized is so awesome about winning a title is like this whole year, this whole next calendar year, you just sit back and you're just like high on life. It's like any college football related topic, you can trump card anybody about it. It's like, it's the sweetest feeling, man. I can't imagine how it's going to feel come next August when it's like college football is really heating up and we get to just always use that card. The other thing, two other quick things I love. People are talking about if Harbaugh leaves, Sharon Moore, this, that. I love the style of play that Michigan has adopted and is now made basically trademarked and made their own. This bludgeon people. I never thought I'd say that. I've always loved the high flying offenses spread, but something about this Michigan team, I never want to watch another style of football in the maize and blue again.
Right.
I need Harbaugh to stay. I need to keep this same sort of technique where we're just going to plow people and we're going to bury them in the ground. I love every second of it. I just felt the need to say that. I just had a true appreciation for that as I was thinking about back on this season. And then the other thing, just last one, the Rose Bowl aesthetic, man, it was awesome. Those were the perfect Michigan jerseys. There'll never be better Michigan jerseys ever again. The white accents, the yellow pants, the blue top, it was just incredible. And one final small
complaint. And then the Rose Bowl patch on the shoulder too.
Awesome.
Yep.
One thing I will complain about, Matt, I'm sure you've probably already gotten some of it. The national championship gear, it is not very good. Why is it the same stock national championship gear year after year by Nike or whoever? It's like they've had it made for 10 years and they're just waiting to ship it on shelves. I don't know, Matt, you probably looked at some of this gear and noticed it. That's just my opinion. I'm like, what is this stuff? Can we get some special Jordan, Michigan, life to this stuff? It's like I can't find a Rose Bowl gear anywhere. The national championship stuff is all just says, national championships 2023 or the without a doubt with the Houston HOU highlighted. I think the gear is like a serious problem to the point I haven't gotten any yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a little underwhelming, and I've seen some other people post about that. Like, I'm going through all the websites, and I can't find something that boom catches your eye. That's the one I want right there. It's all pretty generic. I think it might be one of those things that I think we're all just like cynics. We've just like, there is some cool stuff out there. It's just we see it every year. We see the same stuff every national title. It's Alabama gear. It's LSU. Whoever. Yeah, it is the same stuff every year, just a different team, different colors. But yeah, when your team wins it, especially, with, like you said, with Jordan, you would hope they'd come out with some super cool stuff, maybe some unique styles.
Right.
I've got a couple shirts just because one of my buddies sent Dick's had all their stuff like 30% off for like 2 days or something like that. So I picked up a couple things. One of my buddies, so obviously Rose Bowl, they played Alabama. So a bunch of my coworkers were out there. So I texted one of them and I was like, hey, if you have a chance, swing by some of the merch tables and pick me up some stuff. Cause the Rose Bowl always has like exclusive stuff that they only sell at the Rose Bowl. So I did get a shirt from the Rose Bowl out there, but I have been a little underwhelmed because I was fully prepared to spend a few hundred bucks on, a couple shirts, hats, maybe some other stuff. But yeah, I can understand that. The high won't come down though. I mean, I think seeing some of the guys, JJ McCarthy announcing he was going to leave, I think we were all hoping he would come back, but no one faults him for leaving. His stock won't be higher if he comes back. And even if they won another national championship, I mean, I don't think his stock would necessarily be higher. The only thing would maybe be this NFL draft has Caleb Williams, Drake May. So maybe if he came back, he would be the number one quarterback on the draft board. So maybe that's what it would be. But you always risk, there's the injury risk or, any other thing. And so I don't think any Michigan fan faults him for leaving. He's going to go get drafted and he's going to hopefully have an awesome NFL career. He did everything. He went 3-0 against Ohio State, 3 Big Ten titles, 3 CFP appearances, won a national title game. I mean, I don't know what else he could have done at Michigan.
Yeah. I don't want to bring it down and switch it over to the Harbaugh thing, but just thinking about it, with JJ announcing he's going, doesn't that kind of seal the deal about Harbaugh?
I don't know about seal the deal. I mean, I think it probably him and JJ seem to have a super, super close connection. So you wonder if that played into it. I don't think Harbaugh probably has told anything. Like I've seen people say, I bet JJ and Harbaugh had conversations. If you're going, I'm going type of thing. I don't think that happened at all. I mean, obviously I have no idea.
Probably not that.
I don't think Harbaugh's telling anyone. He might not even be telling his wife what he's doing. I think he's keeping that pretty close to the vest. And I think, yeah, maybe that plays into it. And I know every coach, anytime they recruit someone, they tell them, I want to be here and help you develop. The quarterback that came in, Jaden Davis from Charlotte, the reports are that him and Harbaugh were really close. That's why Davis chose to go to Michigan. And Harbaugh has said he's really excited to be there and develop him. But obviously he's interviewing for the Chargers and other jobs. So that, that may not happen. But my gut still says he's going to be back. I think he wants to be in Michigan from everything that you hear and read. It's just, I saw John U. Bacon tweet it out, and I've seen some other people tweet out that the big hiccup right now with Harbaugh and his Michigan contract seems to be the clauses. It's obviously not the money. They can offer him however much money he wants, but he apparently wants clauses in the contract that say if more infractions come from the NCAA, if more suspensions come from the NCAA, you can't fire me for cause. Like obviously we don't have to go down the rabbit hole of what Mel Tucker was doing, but they were able to fire him for cause. So they didn't have to pay him that buyout because he basically broke the contract. Other coaches have done the same thing. So Harbaugh basically wants to put in his contract, protect himself. Like if another suspension comes from the NCAA, you can't all of a sudden say your contract is void. So there seems to be some heads butting there, which is a little frustrating because through all of last season, through these suspensions, Ward Manuel, the athletics director, and the university we're saying we have Harbaugh's back. He's our coach. We have Harbaugh's back through all of this. He's our guy. We want him here. So it'd be like, well, if you're saying that last season, just do whatever he wants. Put whatever he wants in that contract. Give him the money he wants. I think he's proven that unless they know that some other big suspensions are coming, unless they know some stuff that might come down the pipe and maybe some other suspension is coming. But that seems to be the only thing holding up that contract. That would be the one thing, going back to Jared, you saying like right now we're on a Michigan high. If Harbaugh does actually leave, it would be a little bit of a downer. It would be like, man. But again, I think I said it last week, at least me personally, it'd also be like, hey man, you came back here, you rebuilt the program, you won a title. No hard feelings. Go win a Super Bowl. This has been a great run. So we'll see what happens though.
Yeah, it's a
what
bummer.
do you guys think he's going to the Chargers, or what's your gut?
I think so. I go back and forth on it every day. The fact that he interviewed and there's the rumor mill out that maybe there's not even a contract for Harbaugh to sign right now, that basically there's not even offer. The whole thing is confusing. It's like you don't know who to believe. Like, does Harbaugh want to stay? If he does, why is he not basically saying I have no contract to sign? They are like kind of playing hardball with me. Like, like the fans would be behind Harbaugh. So it's like whatever he's trying to get, I don't understand why he's doing it all behind closed doors. I think Ward Manuel should be thankful for that. I don't know what's happening. Like you said, clauses. No wonder he wants that, because one, it seems like there's a rat within the Michigan building who is leaking stuff to the NCAA. So there are probably more sanctions to come, whether it's next year or some new cheeseburger scandal in 3 years. Like, there will be more. It's just the NCAA, and the NCAA clearly has Harbaugh in his crosshairs. So I don't think that's crazy to want that in his contract. Right. And Michigan boosters, I bet if you ask them, hey, there's two choices. We can give Harbaugh this deal with all these clauses in his contract, or we can just let him go to the NFL. The boosters, 99.99% are going to say, let's give him that deal. Whatever that, sight unseen, whatever the hell he wants, give it to him. Like you said, Matt, I don't understand. What are we doing? He is the best coach maybe in college football. Everybody wants him. Everybody in the NFL, basically any other college program wants him. Ohio State wants him. Why is Michigan taking him for granted, it feels like? And it just feels like a complete 180 from what we saw throughout the year. Like you said, they had his back at every turn. Now, after they win a national title, they want him out. It just, the whole thing makes zero sense.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, we talked about it last week, especially now that Saban's gone. I mean, if Harbaugh wants to stick in college and had the right contract, he'd be the king. He'd be the king for the next 10 years and wind down that career. This whole contract thing does disturb me. I can understand you have a clause in there for morality, like Mel Tucker. Okay, that's one thing. But, for things that really are out of your control, like if the NCAA is after his ass and tries to find every little nitpicky thing and suspends him, for stuff that's really out of his control, what are you going to do if you got a rogue coach that, does stuff? If those kind of things are in the contract, I don't blame Harbaugh. Now, part of me wants to think, okay, I'm going to go do these interviews. I read something else about there was a clause that, okay, in this contract, you can't pursue any more NFL offers. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Telling somebody what he can do with his future. I mean, maybe you got it in the contract that you give up so much pay, but if he wants to go somewhere else, you can't lock in like that. But I don't know. I just, this whole contract thing and Ward Manuel, and it does confuse me a bit. And what really is going on with the contract situation? We're going to know more probably by next week, but it's all still speculation.
Seems like a lot of egos at play. Obviously Harbaugh has a big ego. He deserves it. He's one of the best coaches in all of football. I'm sure Ward Manuel doesn't want to give in to him. Doesn't want to let Harbaugh make the decisions. He's like, I'm still the athletics director. I'm still technically your boss. And I'm sure there's some heads butting there, but kind of like you said, Jared, I've seen people say, just get it done. I mean, they kind of, reports came out with the whole John Beilein thing. Obviously, Beilein said he had a desire to get to the NFL or the NBA. He wanted to coach in the NBA, but some reports came out that part of it was there was just, not like bad blood, but they weren't seeing eye to eye with the athletics department in Michigan and stuff like that. So that kind of led him to saying, all right, this is my chance to go to the NBA. The baseball coach, Michigan baseball was in the College World Series a few years ago, and then they let the baseball coach go. And it just seems like Ward Manuel doesn't have a good track record so far of like keeping his coaches there. So, obviously Harbaugh, different situation, but we'll see. But it's hard not to just still be on a high with Michigan, even with all the guys going to the NFL. I saw a list. I counted it up. So the record of guys drafted is Georgia with 15. And Harbaugh he said, I think before the season that he wanted to break that record.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan has like 19, 20 guys right now that are legitimate. They're going to be drafted, whether in the last round or in the first round. So they're about to have about 20 guys be drafted in the NFL draft. I mean, it was a dream season for Michigan. Everything, all the guys that came back, JJ McCarthy, obviously Harbaugh, and just all the seniors, all the guys they got in the transfer portal came in and were great. Offensive linemen that came back, it really was. You hope that this isn't once in a lifetime type of thing, but this almost feels like a once in a lifetime type of season. And because it's before all this conference realignment, and like you've said before, Ted, the NIL stuff is just kind of getting out of control. The transfer portal is out of control. This just seems like an era, especially if Harbaugh does leave. If they won this title, it almost seems like college football's changing. Saban left, other coaches have left, and things are just really different now in college football. I'm glad Michigan got it done. We've got that forever. And whether Jared buys a shirt or not, we've got that forever.
It's a bummer though, seeing it kind of dissolve though, if we're being honest. I know they did their job, but 20 guys, it's like, I don't know what I expected, but you almost want them to be like, yeah, we're going to go another run. We're going to give it another championship run. They're going to be, it's like I have some buddies who are texting me like, man, I'm so sick of this Harbaugh NFL stuff. Like, he can just leave already. We have Sharon Moore waiting in the wings. Like, dude, it's going to be a drop off. It's similar to God, I feel like what we saw with Ryan Day and Urban Meyer. It's like there's nobody quite like those legend coaches, Harbaugh, Urban Meyer. Like, there's going to be a drop off, even if it's small. And so I'm not looking forward to the days where Jim Harbaugh is not on the sideline. I think they'd be in capable hands, but it's not Harbaugh, and you'd see a drop. Yeah. One thing real quick on the on JJ, that kind of surprised me, if I'm honest. I didn't see that coming. I think you maybe did, Matt. I didn't. And I do agree with what you said, Ted. I think it's a sign that Harbaugh's probably leaving. I don't think they're buddy, but I mean, I think they could probably read between the lines, those players in that locker room, whether Harbaugh's legit about staying or leaving. So I don't know. I see he's getting mocked as a first rounder. I can't figure out what type of NFL player he's going to be.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he flames out because just of what we've seen, kind of at Michigan, where it feels like either whether play calling or his abilities, he seems limited. But then it's like he wins every goddamn game. So it's like I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the NFL and just keeps winning. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he gets the NFL and all these sort of shortcomings we think we see start to really show themselves. I don't know. I can't come to an opinion on what he'll be like in the NFL.
Yeah. I have a feeling I'm a JJ fan, so this might be a little fandom. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback, but we all know it's all about fit. And if he has to be in the right system, I think leaving this year helps him. If he stayed and was the first round draft or the number one quarterback next year, you know how it usually goes. If you're the number one pick, you're probably going to a terrible team. It rarely happens like with CJ Stroud and the Texans this year. The Texans were supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, but CJ Stroud and they kind of put things together and they're in the second round of the playoffs now. Like, that rarely happens. Usually you see like what happened with Justin Fields or some of these other guys. Like, you get drafted to a team that's really bad and it might take a few years. It took a few years for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars to kind of get things going. So I think leaving this year, so JJ will get drafted, in the 20s, maybe even early second round if he falls. So probably by a team that already has a starting quarterback. I think that's ideal, like a Jordan Love situation. Hopefully he gets drafted somewhere where there's a starter. He's not expected to be the guy day one. He can learn a little bit, develop, and then, see what happens. But I see what you're saying. Obviously a lot of people think he's going to be a bust. The dude, even all the way back to his high school, he's only lost like 3 games as a starter, all the way back to through his high school days. Like he just wins, and he's athletic. He gets a little gunslinger, I guess, with his throws sometimes, but you can fix that in the NFL.
Well, he can move, and
Yep.
the intriguing thing to me, if Harbaugh goes to the NFL, let's say the Charger thing doesn't work out. I've been seeing some things about the Raiders, and if Harbaugh goes to the Raiders, he'll draft JJ to be the future quarterback.
Right.
Isn't Tom Brady a part of the Raiders organization nowadays too?
Yep.
I mean, think about that, boys. That got a little.
That's not where I want him to go. I think Harbaugh would flame out there. They do not want anybody but Antonio Pierce, the players. And Max Crosby's very loud about that.
Well, that's true.
If you bring in Harbaugh and then you bring in his little golden boy quarterback, I seriously think it would be like a Urban Meyer type flame out. Like, what the hell is going on? The players would revolt against that.
Yeah.
So I hate that idea. I thought it was, I don't see JJ as a first rounder. I don't know but again, I'm the idiot. Everybody else is saying he's a first rounder, and he's mocked to be a first rounder. I don't know. I think he needs to sit. I don't and if you get drafted in the first round, it's like you're going to go play. Right. I don't think he can in the NFL, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I think he needs to sit. Let's say he went to the Lions in the Hendon Hooker spot. That's a perfect spot for JJ. 2 years, sit behind a Goff-like guy, and come in and play. You only get one shot to start in the NFL. And JJ, who's I think not even 21 yet, just basically getting trotted out there. He's already very small. It just seems like a doomed scenario if he has to start from day one in the NFL.
Yeah, that's kind of changed. That's kind of old school. And I see what you're saying, because the top choice quarterbacks that go in that first round in the top 5, they're thrown right into that starting job right away. And, you got a guy like Love for Green Bay, just a perfect example of old school, where he sits behind a guy, learns, and then when it's his turn, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
He doesn't have all that bullshit of being a rookie. I mean, Stroud's one of the rare birds that was able to do it.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. A rookie quarterback just taking the league by storm. But yeah, we'll see. I'll be rooting for JJ. I'm kind of with you. I hope that Raiders thing, Jared, it doesn't pan out, because the locker room is all behind Pierce. And then, there's that weird expectations. If they have Harbaugh and draft JJ, it would just be like, this isn't Michigan. They both pressure. Need to go different ways and kind of move on. But
kind of fun to talk about, though.
It's fun to talk about, though.
Didn't Pierce? Didn't he just interview somewhere else for another NFL job?
I think I saw that too. He's done a couple of other interviews too. So that's another one. It's almost like, hey, Raiders, just get it done. Like with Michigan and Harbaugh, just do it. If your whole locker room is saying Antonio Pierce is the guy, he's a great coach, and they turned things around when they gave him the job, they actually started playing pretty well. What? Don't overthink it. Just give him the job. Right. What are you doing?
Well, before we wrap up this podcast, boys, finally we're in mid-January, and I'm finally starting to look at college basketball a little bit, I mean, Michigan State picks up a win over Rutgers pretty easy. They now have 10 wins. Malik Hall had 15, but the big story was Steven Izzo scoring his first points as a collegian. I thought really one of the more clever things I've seen on the internet was Izzo holding up that piece of paper with 3 on it, compared to Wilt Chamberlain 100. I mean, that was classic.
I saw that. Yeah, that is pretty funny. And it is a cool story, because obviously he's Tom Izzo's son, and he walked on. I'm sure he wouldn't have made the team if his dad wasn't the coach.
No,
we all know that. But whatever, who cares? I mean, he doesn't get big time minutes. He only comes in garbage time. So it's a super cool story. And he finally got a bucket. It's either his first points or it was just his first field goal. It might be his first points.
I think first points,
because I think all the other times it's been in exhibition games.
Right.
Yeah.
So cool story. You saw the bench go crazy. The fans, the Izzone went crazy, all that stuff. So cool story.
He's living one hell of a life, man.
Right.
Just basically playing dress up on that team. It's awesome. He's the human victory cigar when he goes out there and the crowd goes nuts and the bench goes nuts. it was cool. And one thing that kind of changed my opinion on him a little bit is this whole thing I think is just a joke. I don't get the infatuation with it, but whatever. I can appreciate the comedy and kind of the wholesomeness of Izzo and his son, like full circleness of everything about it. But the one thing that made me kind of feel, okay, I kind of like this kid. He's not the worst thing in the world, was after that point, like they had a little bit of a like news media around him after the game, like in post game. And it's like probably 4 or 5 reporters holding a microphone up to him. And he's like crying, talking about how much it meant to him to score the goal. Like you could tell it meant a lot to him to score that bucket. And I tell you what, like, I feel like if the players, you can tell that they like him, and it would be so easy to hate him if you were on that team. You would think if he doesn't deserve to be there, he's obviously, we can tell he's not the greatest player ever put on a basketball court, but at least he seems like a pretty decent guy, good locker room guy. The players love him. They're all tweeting about it after he makes the bucket. So clearly there's some sort of friendship going on there. So I can appreciate everything about it. But Steven Izzo, man, my worst nightmare is him going in against Michigan this year, like in a blowout and draining a 3-pointer. I might delete Twitter if that happens. I think that's when I'd officially delete it.
Well, speaking of Michigan, I mean, they pick up a win over Ohio State, 73-65, snapping a 5-game losing streak. Martin Luther King Day matinee, that was cool. But the biggest story out of that was, I mean, the Fab Five finally back home all together. That was pretty cool. I'm sure you've seen the pictures of them posing there, the 5 of them. I mean, it was pretty neat, and Gus Johnson on the call. It was a great thing, not working anymore. It was great to put the TV on and watch that game.
Yeah, a little afternoon college basketball at Chrysler Center. I mean, a big game. I mean, Michigan obviously just been struggling like crazy this season. Juwan wasn't on the sidelines at the beginning of the season because of his heart surgery, and now they've had their starting point guard has a really weird suspension going on, and they've been losing games. So just a very odd season for the Wolverines. So that was one of those cool things. He beat the Buckeyes, who Ohio State's actually pretty good this year.
They are.
So that is just a big win. And then finally, it's been long overdue, the Fab Five, the first time they've all 5 together at a Michigan game. So it was a big deal. And it's one of those things like, however you feel about the banners coming down and their wins and everything being vacated, however you feel about that, they were as big a part of not just college basketball, sports, impact that they had on the sports world and really like just pop culture and all that kind of stuff as anything. So the Fab Five is iconic, not just because we're Michigan fans. So it is cool to see them hopefully maybe burying the hatchet a little bit and saying, hey, let's all just kind of move on. Whether the banners ever actually go back up, I guess we'll see. But it was really cool to see the Fab Five back together.
It's time. It's time to put it all behind us, in my opinion. I mean, you can only hold grudges for so long, right? And like you said, I mean, they're legendary. There's a legacy there. It's too bad they didn't win the Natty, but they were the talk of college basketball for those 2 years. There's no question about it. Yeah. And like you said, even bigger in the sports world in general, not just college basketball.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious. So Ted, obviously I was a kid. I remember watching. I vividly remember watching them. I was a kid though. You were an adult watching them. So you obviously remember before Jared's time though. So like what your era, Jared, I mean, you obviously know who the Fab Five is. You've seen the 30 for 30 and everything else. Is the Fab Five to you like just kind of like, yeah, that's cool? Or like, do you love, what I mean? Like, is the Fab Five, does it even really, is it that cool to you? Or
if this reunion happened, let's say 4 years ago when Juwan had the program in a good spot, like this would have been a lot cooler. It's like of all the games for them to show up at Monday, I get it's Martin Luther King Day, whatever, Monday noon game, looked like maybe half the stands were full. Like I get it was Ohio State. It just felt like, where were you guys when we needed the effing recruits? Now this team sucks. And I appreciate they're back in town. I'm glad that they're finally like put their differences aside and seem to be friends now. I never have been a big like Fab Five guy. I don't know what it is. I never have like because of how I've seen these guys since then. Juwan was the goofy Miami Heat guy, basically riding LeBron's coattails. Jalen Rose is on TV every day spouting about who knows what. These other guys you don't even hear about. Chris Webber, not my favorite, color guy. It's just not. I don't like. They're just not. They're not my era, Matt. Like I understand why you loved them. What you were a teenager or a little kid when they were making those championship runs. Like they probably were cooler than hell. But looking back on it, see these documentaries. Like, wow, they wore black socks. Like, okay, sweet. They wore black socks.
Baggy pants.
It's like, I mean, I don't. It's just I appreciate what they did. I see why they were so cool, so polarizing, but. To me, like it just comes like they just seem kind of lame nowadays. I hate saying that. I feel like a hater.
Matt,
Like,
this is the perfect generational thing. Perfect generational thing.
We've been waiting for 30 years for them to come back, and that's like what a couple tweets on Twitter is the only reason you even know that it was going on. It's like what? Like I don't know. Maybe it's on Michigan to make that a bigger deal, but like, why? What? It was just like so anticlimactic. It's like we're kind of done with you guys.
It was weird. I mean, not that admittedly, haven't been paying the closest attention to Michigan basketball this season. Not just because the team is down, but Michigan football and the Lions kind of have most of my attention right now. But yeah, I didn't see any announcement, and I wonder if that was on purpose. Yeah. Maybe they didn't want to make like a huge deal about it, but you would think because it is a big deal. You would think maybe at least a day before, a couple days before, hey, keep your eyes out for something big at Chrysler Center. I don't know, something. I didn't know until I saw Jalen Rose tweet out a picture of him and Chris Webber and before the game. And that was the big thing. It was always him and Webber were the ones that kind of had a falling out. And that's what was like keeping them separated was their friendship kind of fell apart. And that Chris Webber didn't want to go back to Michigan because of stuff that happened with him. So it seems like they must have kind of buried the hatchet, and that's what brought it back together. But yeah, I didn't see any announcements about it, so that was kind of strange. But you saying that the Fab Five is lame?
Nowadays I hate to say it, man. I don't know. That's just me. Like think like everything I laid out, what those guys have been doing my whole life.
Right.
It's like I don't know. It's
the same as like we talk about the football thing. Ohio State will always to Ted be the biggest rival for Michigan, no matter what. But like for you, obviously it's Michigan State. Like it's just, different things. Yeah. The Black Sox, it's everything they did. You've heard this 100 times. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Everything they did was like different. The Black Sox, no one had ever done that. The baggy shorts, no one had ever done that. The five freshmen. Five freshmen. We say it all the time now. Calipari has it all the time. Right. 5 freshmen, never done before. The bald heads, like everything was just like new. The hip hop and just everything was different. So
reread
the book. I don't know. It's just something. The further you get away from it, in my opinion, like you look at their NBA careers, none of them, like Chris Webber was probably the best of them all. Never quite reached that like upper echelon where win a title. It's like I don't know. It just feels like it's like they're grabbing onto. It'd be like Ted, like all of a sudden, like now, like yep, I'm restarting the sports forum. Like the games back together, whoever you used to do it with, it's like you're like grabbing on. It's like it's past. Yeah. I hate to say that. I'm a Michigan guy through and through. I love Michigan, but the Fab Five, it's lost its luster. It was something we wanted for so long, and then it's kind of like the more and more as time has passed, the less I gave a shit about it, and now it's just like, all right, that was cool. I don't know. I hate to say it. I feel bad because it is your team, Matt. Like I get why. Like I don't know. It's just I didn't see them play in college. I've seen what they've done since then.
Right.
And it makes me look back on that team and be like, well, that was kind of lame. But
so what about in 20 years if the same kid your age, but you're now, 40, whatever, is saying this about John Beeline's teams? And Trey Burke and those guys who never actually won a title, but none of those guys really had a great NBA career. Tim Hardaway's still out there playing. Will you be like, you didn't watch those John Beilein teams. You didn't see Trey Burke hitting those buzzer beaters and stuff.
No, exactly. I wouldn't because I would. We just saw. I think they just like got together for a reunion, the 10-year reunion of that 2013 team last year. Mm-hmm. None of those guys have really gone. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr. has been the best like pro of them all.
Right.
And I don't even think Mitch McGary was present at the reunion. I don't even know what he's up to nowadays. But
I think he's deep into weed. I think
right.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So no, nothing will ever change my opinion about those guys.
Yeah.
Unless now Trey Burke became like a TV talking head and like talks about that team like every day, which is what it felt like Jalen Rose like did.
Yeah.
And it was just, you were knocked over your head about the Fab Five so many different times. They didn't win a title. It'd be like it's kind of funny, like the 2018 Michigan team. Imagine talking about them as much as we talk about the Fab Five. It's like, dude, they accomplished just as much. And not nearly the headaches. And those banners are gonna stay. It's just like, I don't know. I sound like a hater. I hate when I feel that way. I'm not in on Fab Five.
That's fair.
Well, like I said, I think that's why people tune in, because it is this whole generational thing is very interesting when we start getting it out of the weeds and bringing it on the table and discussing it. Hearing your opinion on this, I respect it, I understand it, but Matt, we lived it. We lived through Fab Five mania, man. It was unheard of, man. It was incredible. Last question I got for you guys. To bring it kind of full circle on college basketball, Matt, you're in the industry. You're in tune a lot more than I am on college hoops, and Jared, you follow it too. But do you find, like, do you agree with me, or is it just the fan in me still heavy duty into football that college basketball I'm starting to pay attention to now? Starting to get ready for February and March. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It shouldn't feel like punishment having to watch a sport. That's kind of what I feel like sometimes when watching college basketball.
Right.
It just sucks, man. How I feel like the transfer portal and NIL has really elevated college football and leveled the playing field. I feel like it's, on the opposite hand, it's like destroyed college basketball.
Yeah.
You can't follow who's on what team. Like Michigan, I know like 3 guys on the team this year. I watched that Ohio State game yesterday, first game all year. It's like, I got to figure out who these characters even are, like, as I'm watching. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I will get into it. And this is the sweet spot. Like you said, this is the time of year where you finally start to, especially after the Super Bowl. Usually there's like a Michigan State game right around Super Bowl week that you can kind of circle as the real kickoff of the season. But yeah, it's tough for me. It's tough for me to get into it.
Yeah. If I wasn't working college basketball games and doing what I do at work, I definitely wouldn't watch as much. It obviously, if Michigan was a top 5 team, maybe I'd be watching more, but so that does affect it. But yeah, no, Jared, you're spot on. I think not knowing rosters year in and year out, it's just it makes it tough to have to learn. That's what made this Michigan football team so lovable, I guess.
Yeah.
We knew who the whole team was. We knew all these guys. We've been watching them for 2, 3, 4 years, some of them. So
yeah.
That's the best part of sports right there, especially if you're talking college. When you got these teams together, you grow attached to them, you watch what they're doing. And in today's day and age, again, I sound like an old man, but college basketball right now, it's tough. It's tough. It's tougher than it used to be. You watch
how it is. And that's, Izzo still, he's kind of one of the last of a dying breed, if you want to say. He usually does have,
his guys
4 or 5 guys that stick around for a few years, but yeah.
I think that's the best way to go, but I can't live in the past. All right, guys, I think we made it through another podcast. Again, I'm so thankful that I'm relatively healthy now. Last week, I listened to some of that. I'm going, man, what was I doing? I couldn't talk at all.
Hey, you powered through.
We're glad to have you back, man. Full strength. We need you for the playoff push.
Amen. Right. For sure. Go Lions. Well, I want to thank our partners, including Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Sign up for a 2024 membership. I think you can still get the 15% off. Get yourself healthy and in shape. I did pop in there a couple times in my illness to sit in the sauna and the steam room. It did help a little bit, but it's a nice setup. Get details at memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. We'll be talking Lions on our next podcast, everybody. Peace and love. Be kind. Thanks for listening.